the different approaches of LastPass and 1Password to your password security. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is part 2 in a catch-up MacVoices live session that was broadcast late last year, but the information is still very relevant. We take a look at the LastPass hack as it existed then, but more importantly, we discuss how password managers, including 1Password and LastPass, take different approaches to protect your data. We also ask the question, how does one carry 300 iPhones? Let's go back and let the panel do the talking. I want to throw this link into the show, into the next issue that we're catching up on, into everything. This is the I'm not sure if this is a PSA or a warning or what, but that LastPass was hacked again, which is disturbing. But what was more disturbing, at least to me, was they used information stolen in the last hack in August of 2022 to do this hack. And that really bothered me. It's like, okay, if you had information stolen that could have allowed another hack, why didn't you alter it, change it, do something to secure? Because, a password manager is a really, really, really bad thing to have hacked. Anybody have feelings or thoughts about this? I mean, I don't want to trash LastPass, but
so my reading of the article that you pointed us all to for advance of the show, they're a little bit vague. And maybe that's purpose designed to give people comfort, but it sounds like it was not so much the LastPass or customer data that was hacked versus they got information to log into a lot of the others, the servers on the back end to, they said, to some of the other go-to services, which are things like, GoToMeeting and, whatnot. So I think they're doing the public a disservice. They're sending out a message saying, hey, we were hacked, but they're saying it's okay, but they're not saying why it's okay. I don't know if it's just limited to, if it's a red herring that they're throwing out there that, it's all these other services. Because also, LastPass went through a similar type of restructuring, got acquired and then it was sort of split out at its own, because, again, I think, hope is to spin it off as a SaaS, software as a service company, and make a killing in the markets. But to the extent that they said, we got hacked in August, and based on that, we got breached again, or we think we may have been breached again. I think this is just really bad corporate communications, because it's just raising all sorts of questions and doubts. And if we all had a couple of drinks, we'd probably be all screaming and shouting about this. But I don't use LastPass, so I'm just looking and observing and watching.
LastPass is part of LogBN as well. We just talked about that.
Yes.
One meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Cybersecurity is super, super hard. And we're at the point now where there's this absolutely bonkers war going on behind the scenes that the average person has no idea is happening. You want to see what's going on with AI in the most crazy way? Look at cybersecurity, because that's where you have the black hat attackers using artificial intelligence and machine learning to find exploits in ways that humans can't, and certainly far faster than humans ever could. And then on the other side, you have have the cybersecurity professionals using AI and machine learning to find the places that they need to harden what they're doing and find those relationships that a human would never see, and make those changes faster than a human ever could. So now you have this battle between artificial intelligence systems trying to hack in and block hacks at the same time. So when you reach that level, if your company is not actively participating in this game and using like really serious enterprise level security tools that are relying on artificial intelligence and machine learning to help protect your company, you are screwed. I have no idea what LastPass and LogMeIn are doing. Presumably, because we're talking about big companies, that's happening. But holy crap, LastPass has had security breaches every year for the past several years. And there's one where they get a pass on because it was actually a flaw in Android OS and not in LastPass, and it potentially impacted all of the password management tools. And so all the companies that make these tools quickly rush to patch to protect from this flaw in Android. So they all get a pass on that one, But seriously, if you look at LastPass's history, at this point, it's really difficult for me to justify any company relying on them anymore, which I know is a pretty strong thing to say, but their track record is not looking good.
Yeah, I know. And this sort of, to circle this back to the other story, this is a category of software that I'm happy to pay a monthly subscription to. And I don't mind saying I pay it to 1Password because they are constantly making those improvements, doing that research and protecting it. And it's one of the few places I think that I'm not sure, with the possible exception of what Apple builds into the OS, which is secure, but it's not exactly feature rich. I have a real issue with paying one time for it and then feeling like I'm not sure if the software is being updated. It scares me a little.
So I think I agree with Jeff. This is it is difficult. It is a cat and mouse game. It is an arms race. It is viruses against hosts. Just this ongoing battle. I think LastPass, because they are cloud-based, they're such a gigantic, target. They're a honeypot. They're they're the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's a lot of money there. Potentially they can be unlocked if somebody can hack them. Unlike some of these others, and 1Password, I think now is also a little bit going more centralized through the cloud, and I think
1Password is a cloud-based service.
And I think Apple, it's all distributed, so it's all associated with everybody's individual account. So there isn't the economy of scale there of one hack or one infiltration unlocking millions of users like there are with some of these other services. So I think based on that, just that sort of reasoning, I'm more confident using password management with Apple. 1Password certainly offers other things in terms of encrypted notes and various vaults, and also telling you, hey, Yahoo Mail or Google Mail got compromised. Go out and check your passwords, or go change your passwords. It's pretty clear on issuing commands to instruct people what to do. So yeah, I agree with Chuck. It's an important area. It is certainly something worth paying for.
So I'm curious, if you don't mind answering, how many people here use a third-party password manager? I don't want to know what, but okay, pretty much everybody. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just do what you're comfortable with, but it is your data, and it does feel like sometimes the password managers are, as Mark said, kind of the key to the ticket. And ironically, while we were discussing this, I got a message on my watch saying that a deposit has been made to my account, and would I please just click this link to confirm?
Tap it.
Okay.
Tap it, Chuck. Tap it.
No chance.
Don't you want that money?
No. I want to keep what little I have. I don't want to give it to anybody else.
All right, hold on. I need to go back into PayPal and cancel that money transfer to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Hey, a couple other things. Listen, this one, I'm sorry. This is just fun. Man robbed following purchase of 300 iPhones at Fifth Avenue store in New York City. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. I don't know if any of you saw this.
That's just fun.
Yeah.
Well, it's
It wasn't
fun
for
because
him.
look,
Yeah.
well, but look, 300 iPhones, first of all. Second, look, I know it's New York, but it was purchased at 1 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
What?
yeah. Yeah. So, why would you think that purchasing, if you were going to buy 300 iPhones, why would you do it at 1 in the morning? And why would you not have like armed guards with you? I mean,
if you're purchasing $300 of iPhones all at once, that should be sending off huge red flags at Apple, and they should be looking at whether or not they should do the transaction at all.
But in the article, it says that apparently he's done it before. He has some sort of small business. It's not specified what that is, but apparently this is not his first multiple hundred unit buy from that Apple store.
Yeah, I mean, if I say it's fun just because there's just so many things weird about this story that you just kind of have to laugh.
But you read them and they say blah 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 blah, and you look at it, it looks like the average price is, if you do the math, $760. So those are certainly not pro phones. They're probably various combinations of iPhone 14 and iPhone 13.
Yeah, it's still a fair amount of money.
And he still had 175 phones left, apparently, that they weren't able to
that
take.
tells me the criminals didn't show up prepared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who would
come
show
on,
up
criminals.
prepared for somebody carrying? I mean, how big is three? I don't believe that I could carry 300 iPhones. Period. How much does that weigh?
Yeah, brand new in a box. Yeah. So
Yeah, they're in a
Yeah.
box.
But the boxes are small because they don't.
Yeah, but still,
Scissors.
300.
that's 300 of them.
300, that's huge. Yeah.
I mean, if they're each a pound, that's 300 pounds. Even if it's a half a pound, that's 150 pounds.
That's a big
I
wagon.
don't.
Yeah.
They
And
were
then-
all,
and
they
then
were all
you-
iPhone 13s, by the way.
Says he was carrying them in 3 bags.
Thanks.
What?
Yeah.
Oh well.
So
Hey, it's New York.
yeah, I mean, this feels like one of those guy walks into a bar stories. Guy walks out of the Apple store with 300 iPhones, gets robbed. Really? Oh man.
Okay, so that's our palate cleanser. That's our sorbet.
Yeah. So there was one other one though that there's definitely a topic I want to get to, but I also want to touch on this article, and this is one from Tidbits, and I think at least one or two folks here on the panel confirmed that they're having this issue, that some HomeKit automations broke with the iOS 16 update.
It's raging on the internet.
Yeah, so I mean, I have not experienced this so far, but I also don't have sophisticated HomeKit setup at all. I have sort of the one command ponies. Anybody else seeing this with any significant consistency?
Yeah, Chuck, I was the one who posted this in the Slack channel. My wife and I, we have Christmas set up, and we have the Christmas lights in the tree and the lights outside and all that kind of stuff. It's set to go off at sunset, turn all the lights on at sunset, and turn them off at 11 o'clock at night. And as soon as I did the iOS 16 update, all those scheduled automations work. Now I can still do everything manually, but all the scheduled automations just quit working completely. So.
I made a comment in the Slack earlier today about how I was having trouble with automations that involve shortcuts that impact or do something with music. Everything that involves shortcuts and music is broken. Just that part doesn't work. But then I started thinking about it. Well, what else am I dealing with? And then I realized, since iOS 16 came out, the automation that runs from a time-based function for when I come in my front door, and then it turns on the light automatically. 10 minutes later, it turns the light off. It no longer turns the light off, and I have a couple other timed activities from HomeKit, and those are not happening either. So, like Web, if I manually invoke whatever that HomeKit automation is, it'll work. Geofenced automations, those are working okay for me, though. Well, mostly.
So, and Jeff, you are, as I recall, you set up parallel setups, I guess, scenes for the Echo device, the Amazon Alexa device, and for HomeKit. And is it just the HomeKit ones that are broken?
It's just the HomeKit stuff that's broken.
Okay.
Now, some of the things that I'm doing with HomeKit, I can't do with the A-Lady platform, and that in some cases it's hardware based, like it's a device that only supports HomeKit, and then in other cases it's because I'm doing something that HomeKit can do that you just can't set up. Oh no, I guess I could if I set it up as an IFT thing and then had the Echo call the IFT, do like a series of it. Doesn't matter. There are some things that that are very HomeKit specific.
This edition of MacVoices is brought to you by the MacVoices Slack, available to all patrons of MacVoices. Sign up today at patreon.com/MacVoices. So, if I guess the good news is, if you're having problems with iOS 16 and HomeKit, you're not alone. The bad news is you're having problems with HomeKit.
Yeah, the bad news is you're not alone.
Yeah, that's true. I think there may be earthquakes in Kansas City because Web has been bouncing all over the screen.
Oh, I've been trying to show the Christmas lights in the background. That's all I'm trying to do. So.
Oh, okay. Well,
I turned off my virtual background, and it
was entertaining, I must say.
Yeah, sorry.
Before we leave this, I want to ask the birthday girl if she's having any HomeKit shortcut issues.
I wasn't speaking up because it's embarrassing.
What? Okay.
So this summer, a few things happened. One, I was on the iOS 16 beta. And two, we swapped over our whole internet setup to this Comcast business thing that also sucks, just like our old Comcast that wasn't business thing. Anyway.
But now it costs more.
But now it costs more, yeah. And about that time, I was like, oh, a bunch of HomeKit stuff isn't working. I'll just delete the whole house. This is after trying lots of other things. I'll delete the whole house and then set it up again. And it's December, and I have not set it up again because it was a pain. And I kept thinking, well, surely we're going to get rid of this Comcast business thing soon, and I don't want to have to deal with that again. So, yeah. I have no idea if it's working. Something broke. It might have been that in the summer. It might not have been. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, when I saw this story, I immediately thought of you and knowing how much of your life you run on shortcuts, and wondered if that extended to the home automation stuff. It
did, and I would like it to again. And I just have to spend the time to actually reset them up again.
Yeah. So those are some of the stories we wanted to catch up on. But something occurred to me over the holiday break and all. I was reading a bunch of articles and playing catch up on a lot of different things. There's still so much discussion of the metaverse, what it is, what it's going to be. Everybody's trying to sell you that in the metaverse you soon will be able to do X, whatever X is. And I guess I'm kind of struggling with it a bit because I'm questioning whether we already have the metaverse in some degree. In the metaverse, you're allegedly going to be able to go in and converse with people and interact with them face to face. Well, guess what? That's kind of what we're doing right here, right now. In the metaverse, you'll be able to share resources and assets and look at them together. Well, we can do that with Zoom by screen sharing. There are a dozen different services that you can integrate into Zoom or into a number of the other tools and do a lot of that sharing. There are not so great options like Teams. There is Slack. I don't even want to. I don't want to start too far down this road because I'll start to have to name all the services. But I'm to the point now where I'm wondering what the metaverse in any of its proposed incarnations is going to bring to us that we can't right now do. Maybe it'll be a little slicker, but am I just completely off base here? Does anybody see something that they really think will be better if we all pull on avatar suits or whatever and jump into this new reality?
From a practical
Jeff?
standpoint, I think you're mostly right. But there are some things that feel different when it's developed well. I know of people who will watch a movie on an airplane, not on their laptop or whatever, but with the VR, because then they don't have to look at the rest of the airplane. And so for them, that's a more relaxing experience. There are sometimes things that a little bit more interaction is helpful with. I still think the progress on it is pretty slow, but things like, hey, we're in a giant whiteboard room and we can map things out together. Because I do a lot of screen sharing and work with people, and that's great. I don't not miss in-person meetings because we can do things in more space. But and I know people who benefit from it, but I think it's only sometimes. Like, you don't want to do it all the time. It has super duper limitations in all of the current incarnations, but I know people who do benefit from it sometimes.
Brittany, your comment about the movie on the plane is a really good one, because that's just one more thing one more example of something we can do right now. Maybe it could be done a little better. Maybe the standards can become a little more widespread for that. And maybe we will all end up with those kind of glasses or goggles or whatever that will allow you to do more of that. But it feels like these will be enhancements. It won't be the radical thing, at least not right off. And I'm still looking for the killer app that the metaverse, whatever that means, will bring. Jeff, you were laughing at Brittany's comment about drawing in space and cutting blocks with lightsabers. Hopefully, we can do a little more than that if this is going to be a really big thing.
Well, first off, Brittany, you nailed it. That is absolutely where we are with this technology. And okay, so when we talk about metaverse, Mark Zuckerberg gets really excited because in his lizard brain, he's thinking, they're saying metaverse. They're saying metaverse. And what he wants is for all of us to think that metaverse is the whole virtual reality thing. Metaverse is a product that comes from Meta, the same company that owns Facebook. And it is a sort of virtual reality-ish kind of thing. And when I look at that, what I'm looking at is a company or maybe a lizard boss that is desperately trying to find a way to make virtual reality exciting and sexy for the average consumer. And but he knows that to be able to sustain that, you have to have the whole business side of it as well. And that's where, at least for now, that whole IBM partnership thing is coming in. So when I look at metaverse, I'm thinking, okay, this is a marketing thing. What we really need to look at to answer the question that you're going after, Chuck, is how about virtual reality in general? And I think virtual reality has valid uses that will continue to improve in specific places. And this is not a consumer thing other than gaming, at least for now. So if you have something like the Perseverance rover that's on Mars, NASA has been able to create a virtual reality interface for the engineers that drive robots like Perseverance and Opportunity, so that they can have a view into the world that they are literally driving around, and have a better perspective on where the robots are going. Places where you have like hazardous situations. Let's say you need to go into a radioactive space, and you can send a robot in there and have a virtual reality representation of where the robot is, so you can control it in real time. Things like that. Or how about remote medicine, remote surgery, virtual reality? So things like that I see as valid uses for VR technology, and places where over time this will continue to improve, where it becomes much more practical to just happen on a regular basis. For the average user, we are not going to switch and watch next year. Someone will make me eat these words. We are not going to switch to doing panel podcasts like this in virtual reality. What we have right now, this works incredibly well and will continue to work incredibly well and very efficiently for a really long time. We don't need to pretend that we're sitting around the Jedi Council chambers with virtual Yoda and virtual Obi-Wan with us while they're out on campaigns. No, we can do this. It works great.
I want to pull Eric in here because he just brought up an interesting thing. Jeff, the one comment I'll make is for a number of the examples you just gave there, it sounds like I'm not sure if it's augmented reality or not. Probably not. I guess it is VR, but it feels like that is doing something that is affecting the physical world, as opposed to being in a completely virtual world that doesn't have a connection to the real world.
Yes. And yes, I see virtual reality as a viable way to extend our interaction in the real world in ways that we currently can't do. But you said augmented reality also. That's where you'll get consumers, because that's where you can do things like we're seeing already, where like in a car, you get a heads up display that has arrows pointing the directions that you're going. Like Google, they tried to do with Google Glass, where you could walk around and then have data showing up on glasses in front of your eyes, and no one else sees the data. That's something that I think will gain popularity with consumers.
And I agree, because I can see some definite value for that. Eric, you brought up the idea of in our private chat here, the idea of maybe using virtual reality to try out a product.
Or augmented reality is I guess, because whenever Apple comes up with something like their new display, being able to grab an object of that and put it out effectively on your table and hold your phone up as you walk around it, so you can see the new screen on your desk and what it looks like and what all the connections look like, well before you could actually order and expect to see it. You can see it and visualize it. You can, walk over to somebody else's office and say, that display would look really good right in that spot. And this is exactly what it will look like and how it goes with all of the rest of your stuff. Same thing with ordering canvas prints. You can order a canvas print online, and they let you hold up your phone against your wall, and it will put in the the print that you're ordering on the wall at the right dimension, and you can see how it compares to everything else on the wall. Or the Measure app, where you hold your phone up and you say from this point to this point, about how big is that and how far off the floor is it. All of that kind of augmented information to a real space. That's where I see things being useful. It's easy to understand. It's, the equivalent of walking up with a real measuring tape. Everybody gets it. You don't have to give people a whole lot of background. It's just there. And it's easy to, add on and make it easier to have that appear. And appear in more things. So that's where I expect everything to show up. The whole VR thing where you immerse yourself and isolate yourself from everywhere else, I think we're decades away from that being useful.
Okay. Mark, you wanted in.
Yes. Is my audio on? Yes, I'm not muted. Okay.
I'm so glad you're wearing pants.
Yes. Yeah, that was close.
Yeah. So I think part of this is to be Talmudic about it, is we really need to define what does metaverse mean. And I think the vision that Zuckerberg has of some sort of thing you put your head on so you can simulate being at a meeting. Well, sitting in a room or going to a coffee shop, is just as good. That's a solution. Looking for a problem. I think the idea of separating VR and AR. I think VR is probably good for all sorts of things where you cannot do something in the real world, like doing mission planning. To go in and with Jeff, clean out or fix or repair in a damaged atomic power plant, or prepare to do a raid in the Kremlin and take out Putin. So there are things like that I think VR is good for training for simulating reality. But I think that's a very narrow set of tasks. I think for most people, the idea of augmented reality, that it's something that enhances our interaction with the daily world. And I think for that, Chuck put the teaser in the show notes for this episode of Are We Already Living in the Metaverse? But I don't know if I ever saw the article that he put that he referred to where he meant. So I went searching for a little bit, and I found some other things that people are talking about. Metaverse, not as the Zuckerbergian sense of goggles you put in your head and make this all-encompassing thing, but sort of more generalized term of interacting or integrating computer-based systems into your daily life. And I think in that regard, we clearly are living in a metaverse. I think of it as dimensions, things like, David Sparks is probably known to many of the listeners here. 10 years ago, or even more, I remember him just talking about his task manager and how it's integrated in his life. And I remember at the time thinking that, what he's done, he's found a way he's integrated his Mac, through this application, to be a part of his functioning nervous system. It sounds like a funny term, but he was really describing what seemed to me as a very intimate relationship that he was having, with his computer, in terms of just dumping in, different tasks and different things, that he needed to do. But that's text-based, so that's a dozen years old or more. Now we're trying to do things graphically. There's talk about people having sort of the RoboCop, or the Terminator, glasses that will overlay other information as you look around. Today, I had an example that sort of struck me as a use case appropriate for this discussion. Walking the dogs, coming back, and was about a block away from a school, and it was walking in this kid, I shouldn't call him a kid, this young man who was probably about 16-ish, 15, 16, 17, asked for help. He had rescued a squirrel that somehow was injured or something, with his 2 back legs, and he needed me to help him. So, I looked at different things on my phone. And then found something. I called somebody, and they were going to list off a number. It was a 10-digit number. Didn't have anything to put it down on. Got his phone, typed in the phone. He called it, and then it was a little bit back and forth between different agencies. But something like that would have been perfect if you have the eyeglasses, put it on, and you call San Jose Animal Rescue, and you can pop it up, and you can do that now with with an iPhone. But if you don't have use of your hands, some sort of apparatus that is lightweight and easy to wear, again, that's this integration with this virtual world into our daily life. So I think that's the sort of area that I'm encouraged for, hoping that Apple's doing something for whatever their play is that everyone is always talking about. But again, I think metaverse it's a disservice. It's too broad a term, and we should I think sort of the AR VR. It's a little bit more clumsy, but I think it's a little bit more precise. And I think ultimately
XR works.
XR works, yes. XROS, So I think people find more value in things like that than these all-encompassing, artificial environments. So that's all I have to say. Back to you, Chuck.
Yeah. Just to be clear, when I teased this for tonight's conversation, I didn't have an article in mind. It was just it was just an amalgamation of me reading a number of things and seeing all these predictions and things that people say we'll be able to do in the metaverse. And it's like, well, I can do that now. I don't need to, put on goggles to shop virtually. I can, use my web browser and click buy, and Amazon delivers it. So in the final version of this MacVoices Live catch-up, we continue our discussion of the metaverse, where it is, where it's going, what we need, what we don't need, and what we have right now. And some of the conclusions might surprise you. That's next time on MacVoices. I'll see you then. As always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.